what kind of support you would like to have from the states. More funding, of course, but in addition to that, not just this is not just about funding. This is about a holistic program, because funding of science then does not provide for long-term monitoring observations. In the agency, the governmental agency has no means of supporting such research. They have very scarce, limited funds. It's now funded under the academic science programs. They can be long-term. The Ministry of Education and Science, like our university, is funded by them. We have that in the form of grants. If I get a grant, I get funded. 2 years after that, later I have to win another one. At some point, I won't win a grant and discontinue our research. The same with the fund. Another governmental fund, we have a grant. We can maintain our research, but if it is discontinued, it is very difficult to renew the ionizing radiation. This is a long-term research. It is difficult to do everything within the scope of 2 or 3 years. So we need a focused program for the reserve, for the monitoring works, for the most important reference organisms that should be singled out, and they should be reconciled with the colleagues from other countries, other researchers, and to have some focused works on even implementation of such programs. It may sound provocative, but the government are saying now that they are going to create the Chernobyl hub to support research. The residents argue that there is a hub already, it's well in place. And what's your opinion on this situation? Hub is a new notion for our language. They say that they will, at the filling station, they will create a new facility to accommodate researchers, to receive them, have access to the equipment. Infrastructure is a good thing, but for research in Chernobyl area, you need a permit, so that for you have it, you need a serious development, starting from garbage collection, then all the tests for the nuclear sites. They have comply with all the regulations and the experts, and they are sometimes more knowledgeable than the inspectors, but the tour agencies who bring tourists to that zone need no permits. Our scientists, our researchers have to pass all the exams. If we simplify this arrangement, we can be more efficient. And unfortunately, all those works currently are conducted with this cooperation with the Environmental Center or Chernobyl Reserve, for that matter, because they are our colleagues who work together, and so they help us organizing works with the work. If they continue and cooperate under such programs, this is the best way. And of course, we need the infrastructure. And if they have to spend the night somewhere, have a meal, change. Once upon a time, after the Chernobyl accident, we had that project of the European communities from 1991 to 1996. Many countries participated. There was a big program, and they had a whole big city. They would come together with our researchers. So that was the first time when we met international EU researchers and made friends, established contacts, and we have maintained those contacts for all these years. And our institute has survived only because of our cooperation with the French colleagues. And you say that all the researchers would like to have their own research. What about the samples of soil that people want to take away with them? Should we simplify this procedure for taking samples from the environment and the exclusion zone, or would that threaten the radiation safety? The procedure is quite simplistic. You take a sample and put it into a container. The beta flow should not exceed certain values, and you can take away any kind of sample. This should be done legally and officially. But I'm not very much in favor of free flows of such samples, because they will end up at landfills and private collections, perhaps, or I don't know where, public places, perhaps. But with the dosimetric control system, you can do that. It's very difficult to take them abroad. There is a big problem of such shipments, but it is not related to the irradiation and sanitary norms and the lack of regulation for this issue, because there's this law of Ukraine, the international norms for the transportation of such samples, and you do not violate this. But because it used to be the case, I had lots of troubles with that. But center and epidemic stations would do that. Now they don't. It's easier to refuse than to issue a permit and then be held responsible for that. What do you think about new MPPs in the territory of the exclusion zone and this deep geological storage facility? Storage facility could be introduced, because we cannot take that abroad any place. For the new NPPs, the NPPs should be close to the consumer. Any kind of transmission, if it's 1,000 kilometers, it doubles the cost. So if you have the need, and where you have the need, you have to build that. The exclusion zone has all the system for infrastructure for solar plants. The hydrogen is not new. It's a well-forgotten old thing. There was this nuclear hydrogen energy magazine. We had 152, Apollo 152, that used hydrogen as its fuel. Well, it's not new. And for the hydrogen, we need electricity. And we can do that in Chernobyl zone, of course, if it is economically feasible and safe. And a quick question. In the exclusion zone, would you like to have some nuclear facilities or solar batteries, solar farms? I don't think it makes any sense to have MPPs in this zone. Modular ones. I used to be deal with the passive security reactor. There's heat without electric power. We can use some heaters, some kind of steel mills, and this is a closed, really excluded zone. I don't think it makes any sense. From the solar energy, it's a big territory, and we have to choose what kind of use we can propose. As a reserve, it's unique together with the Belarusian part. It's a big territory, also for the wildlife, and we are just back from the exclusion zone, and there's the variety, the diversity, biodiversity, varieties of animals, and they're not afraid of bees. To end this up on an optimistic note, yesterday I talked to an American colleague, and they said that for radio ecology, one needed to speak Russian and Japanese, because if you have some kind of idea, the Russians and the Japanese have already done this. So can we survive in radiculture without the Russian language and the Japanese language? If it is done, it is published. If it is published, it is published in English. So you have to speak English to know what is happening in the world. And after that, it depends on the number of academics or scholars reading in Russian, in Ukrainian, Japanese, Hungarian, whatever. But in English, of course, we have the biggest readership. Thank you very much for your participation in this discussion. Thank you very much for your